Another episode of the Cancer Diaries about to start. Just gotta wait for Amy to get on here. Drink some wine. I never know what to say until the person comes on here. One of these times I'm gonna actually wear makeup on these. Yay, Amy's here. Okay. Amy, now you just hit the request button. Yep. Okay. Should have done my eyebrows.
Hi.
Hey. Yay. All right.
This is gym makeup, by the way.
Gym
makeup.
No makeup. At least gym makeup is better than none. All right. So for everybody watching or watching this back on the replay, this is Amy. She had stage 4 Hodgkins lymphoma, and she is a badass bitch.
Aw, thank you.
So do you want to start off, tell us a little bit about yourself, or jump right in?
Yeah. I mean, I'm 34. I live in Buffalo, New York. I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, almost 5 years ago, April of 2014. 6 months of chemotherapy, some lung damage, and just struggling to figure out how to live my life in a positive manner and be successful and a thriver and know that life's going to get better, after that initial diagnosis and chemo and all of the stuff that goes along with being a cancer patient.
Mm-hmm. So what about when you first got diagnosed? Because I know we have a lot of similarities in that we were, misdiagnosed and pushed off by doctors for a while.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, it took about 2 years for me to get diagnosed. And I can remember my first symptom as far back as August of 2012. And I mean, so that's almost 2 years. And being 28, 29, the doctor's like, oh, no, you're fine. It's fine. So, I mean, I learned that I needed to be my own health advocate and I need to stand up for myself when I didn't feel like someone was listening to me. I mean, I think I had 5 or 6 chest x-rays in the span of a 9-month period, and everyone was like, nope, you have pneumonia, you have mono, you have bronchitis. And I mean, it turns out I had a tumor in my lungs and the cancer was pretty much everywhere at that point. And by the time I got to my oncologist, he was like, good thing you're here now, because another month it might have been a different story, which is super scary to hear.
Yeah.
And when you're that far in, you don't have time to react. You have to just go and you don't think, and everybody is telling you what to do and how to do it. And you just kind of, it's just, you're on autopilot. Yeah, autopilot. You're just going.
And everyone's feeling bad, right? And you're just like,
right. And everyone's like, well, how can I help? How can I help? And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening.
Exactly. So with doing this, I hope that people can come away with, if you're newly diagnosed, if you're going through chemo or radiation or whatever it may be, that you're not alone. You can reach out to me, reach out to you. And there's a whole community of girls on Instagram, if just honestly put in that hashtag Hodgkin's lymphoma. And that's how I met half of these people. Mm-hmm. And like I said, some of them are my really, really good friends. I'm going to add you to that list. So it's a cool community, but it was also very helpful after the fact for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely can relate to that. I feel like Instagram and that kind of stuff wasn't as big back then. It was still big, but
it was because you were 13 and I was 14. And yeah. I mean, I didn't meet a lot of people until after I finished chemo. It didn't become this huge community via Instagram until after, but it's still really cool to see. It's really awesome to see so many people supporting each other. And if I'm having a crappy day, I could text you or text someone else and they'd be like, okay, you're fine. You're going to get through this. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to figure it out.
Yes.
And that's what I hope to bring to people now. Like, my hair is down to here. I have eyelashes. I mean, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right?
Life goes on. Even
Life goes on.
It doesn't feel like it at the time. And that's a huge thing too, I think I talked about this before, but like having someone that gets it on the level that me and you would get it for each other, or someone else, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you have your close friends and your family, but
they don't understand.
Exactly.
Like, I love my family, I love my friends, but if you haven't done it, you are not going to understand what chemo felt like. You're not going to understand, watching your hair come out in chunks. You're not going to understand, like, looking at red Gatorade can give you some kind of weird PTSD because it looks like a chemo drug.
Yeah.
It's real life. Like, to this day, I won't drink fruit punch, anything, because it's of the color.
Yeah.
So it's just the weird, what's the word I want here?
Like, after effects or
after effects. Yeah. It just, so PTSD, other people can definitely, it is really PTSD. Other people relate to that. And on a level that, my mom or my best friend could not.
Yeah, totally. And even if you want to talk a little bit about going through chemo, like what that was like for you, your first chemo treatment, some of the symptoms that you felt, just because I'm sure if anyone is watching and has been through it or is about to go through it, it's good to know, everything you could expect.
When I got diagnosed, everything was very quick. I went from, it was like a week from the day that I got diagnosed to the day that I started chemo, and I didn't really have time to think. And not that my oncologist and the resident weren't helpful, but I didn't really know what to expect. My first chemo was on a Tuesday. It was May 13th of 2014. And I know by that Sunday, I literally was laying on my mom's bathroom floor crying, like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I was in so much pain. And I was like, how am I going to do 11 more of these? This is nuts. Like, how do people survive this? But, I talked to my doctor and he said, you can do certain things. Like, I got myself on a probiotic, and as silly as it sounds, probiotic are so necessary because that chemotherapy is just destroying everything in your body.
Good and bad.
Good and bad.
Yep.
Right. So, like, your whole system is just shot. So the probiotic did wonders for me, honestly. Like, I started taking one every day. And I mean, for pain, I didn't do well on like the hardcore drugs. I honestly used essential oils and, some Tylenol here and there.
Yeah.
And I also worked through chemo. So I had a distraction. There's a lot of people that, and not to say you should work, but I had to still get up and go to work and be productive and be a human, even though my life is essentially falling apart around me. But I also had another focus. I went to work every day except for the day that I had chemo and the day after. So there was something else for me to do. My friends kept me occupied. Let's go to dinner. Let's do this.
You didn't really have the option to be.
I didn't have the option to fall apart, really. Yeah. And if you're just like, someone said, well, why don't you just take 6 months off? I'm like, well, what the hell am I going to do for 6 months?
Yeah, be sad.
Just be sad. So I think it's important to keep yourself active and keep yourself involved. I wish that I personally had worked out during chemo. I think it's really important because now that I work out on a regular basis, the chemo is eating away at your muscle and it's destroying your body. So to bring something back into it is, I think, super substantial.
Go for a walk, do something.
Go for a walk, do something. If you have dogs, go to the park, just get outside. Because you can get so lost in your own head and what you're doing and how you're feeling. But like I said, I was on autopilot mostly. It wasn't until the year after I finished chemo where like that was the hardest part for me. It's like you're done, but your life's not going to be the same. But people look at you like, well, you're done. Everything's great. And it's really not that simple. I mean, I went through some major depression. I had some severe lung damage. I was reading the comments. Yeah. +1 for working out.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. If I could heart that, I would. Yeah,
It probably
exactly.
helped so much.
It's totally helped. And that's what I wish that I had done, because I think it would have saved me and maybe my lungs. Um, Probably not. So my lungs were pretty shot after the bleomycin, and I had to go on 80 milligrams of prednisone. And we all know what prednisone does. It's a steroid. It's taking away any kind of inflammation, but you also gain weight, you retain fluid. And I think I gained like 60 pounds. And to be fat, bald, miserable, it screws with your head, honestly. And I was in a very dark place. So, like I said, the first year after chemo was the hardest for me. It was harder than chemo. Just figuring out where I fit in at this point, what to do next, what does my life look like now?
You feel like you have to amount to something too, almost. Like,
Right.
okay, I need this, now what?
Right. Now what do I do?
Yeah. And I think
So,
there's a lot to be said about the after effects, like you said, like the prednisone and all that messes with your body, and it doesn't just stop the day you stop chemo. Like that stuff is in your system and has its toll on your body. And
exactly.
you don't just wake up and
magically gone.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I still have damage. I'm pretty sure I have nerve damage down like the whole lower half of my body. Like if I stand too long, I get this wonderful burning sensation. Literally, I feel like my legs are on fire. I mean, my hands go numb, my feet go numb. We all know that's a classic sign of neuropathy. So it's lifelong things. You know, I can't be outside for very long when it's cold out because my lungs don't want to work. So it's just you make the adjustments, and you look at it from a standpoint where, okay, well, I survived this. This is what I got, and this is what I'm going to work with. And you just kind of like figure it out, because you're either going to live in that sad place, or you're going to grow and you're going to evolve, and you're going to make something of it, and you're going to make it a positive. And I mean, for me, I didn't know what the purpose, like, I feel like I always looked for a purpose behind, well, why did I get sick?
Yeah.
What, why? And not necessarily that I know the why, but I mean, I've connected with so many people over the last 4.5 years, and the comments and messages I get that you've really inspired me, you're an inspiration, you've helped me get through this. Even people who didn't have cancer that follow me and say, you know, watching you is truly amazing, and it motivates me to be better. That's awesome. That's really like the goal here. Like, I want everyone to win. I want everyone to do the best that they can do.
Exactly. No matter what it is.
Like,
cancer,
just because you didn't have cancer doesn't mean that you can't achieve great things. But I think it's awesome for people to look at me and you and all the other girls that I know and be like, okay, well, I didn't go through something this traumatic, so I'm going to do this now. Yeah. And because of just being motivated by each other is super important, I think.
Yeah, and I think for both of us too, even though we did have the cancer, like after we had anxiety, we had the depression, we had the confusion, the what am I doing with my life, that people experience every day, even if you don't have cancer. So finding a way to get through that is so important, and knowing that there's other people that struggle with that too and are going through that, like, is huge. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah. I mean, I still struggle. It's been almost 5 years. I mean, I have a necklace that says anxiety on it. I mean, I wear it every now and then. I have a necklace that says fuck cancer on it. It just depends on your mood. You know, it is really a day by day thing, but you have to be in the mindset of you want more for yourself, and you want to better yourself, and you want to inspire others and what you're doing, and you just want to live your best life, honestly. And I'm really living my best life.
I agree. Yep. And you appreciate things more too. Like, I know after chemo, I was afraid to fly, like would not go in public places.
Really?
Oh my God. I was just afraid I was going to die at all points. Like, no matter what it was, like getting in the car with people, I would not. Yep. And I mean, now I've forced myself to do these things.
You've stepped outside. Yeah.
You have to push yourself.
I don't know if I necessarily felt that. I mean, my biggest anxiety was like within the first 2 years, like every time I got a rash or I didn't feel well, I immediately associated that with, oh my God, the cancer's back.
Yeah. Do you still
what am I going to do? No, I don't. I don't know when it shifted, but I can't control it. If it's going to come back, it's going to come back. If it's going to come back now, it's going to come back now. If it's going to come back in 7 years, it's going to come back in 7 years. If it's going to come back as something else, you know, as going through what we went through, some of the side effects are getting leukemia, or if you've had radiation, you can develop breast or lung cancer at a later date.
Mm-hmm.
I can't control that. So I'm not going to not focus on it until someone tells me, yep, this is what it is. So I've been very mindful of, if I am sick, I'm not immediately jumping to that conclusion, oh, it's back. Like, I have a sore throat right now. And 3 years ago, I would have been like, oh my God, I have to call my doctor. I needed a CT scan right away. And now I'm like, I have a cold.
Yep.
And it's just being sensible. But it takes time.
I was
really
the same way for the same amount of time, 2 to 3 years.
It's a process. It's 2 to 3 years, and then your life starts to really normalize. Like, I forget sometimes that I even had cancer. Honestly, like I'm like, oh yeah, that actually happened to me. But I look the same as I did before that. But then, you know, like, I will see my port scar. It's like, oh, okay, wait, I did have cancer.
Yeah.
So it's just a strategy in how you approach things. It's like how you would approach anything else in life. Like, I can't control it. The only thing I can do is control my reaction and how I feel about it, and go about your day.
Yep. It's all about the way you react to things. And I was just like you, first 2 years, could not, any little thing. I was itchy. I had a sneeze, like anything. I was at the doctor. And now I get over that.
One of my symptoms was when I would drink alcohol, I would have this amazing, horrible, burning, stinging sensation across the left side of my body. And I think it was like maybe six months, maybe a year after I had chemo. And I think I was due for a scan, or I had just had a scan, and I was drinking, and I swear to God, I felt this pain. And my then boyfriend said, you're being a hypochondriac, get over it. And I mean, to be fair, I was being a hypochondriac, but I mean, it's a real fear.
Yeah.
At that point, you're 6 to 12 months out, and you're like, what? Shit. That's all you can think of. And then you can't focus on what's going on around you, and you miss out on life.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. That is 100% accurate. I think we should do a whole live about just after effects, because
I think we should. I mean, that was what screwed with me more, was everything that happened after than really what happened during. Like, watching your hair fall out, yeah, it's traumatic, but you know what? Your hair grows back.
Yeah.
See? All of it is back and then some.
So your hair falls out, and after, you don't just get it back. Now your hair's growing back, and you still look sick.
You still look sick.
Like, you still look not like you. You don't know, like, for me, I struggled with, like, I'm fat, I have no hair, like, my skin's weird. Like, who am I? Like, this is not
who am I?
Yeah.
I mean, I think my hair, my eyebrows, I had microbladed, so they're partly mine, they're partly not mine. My lashes are not mine. My hair is mostly gray, believe it or not. I do color it. It does look great, doesn't it? So, and I mean, I've come into an area of, like, self-care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look good, feel good is a real thing. Like, it's not just for show. I have to do things for myself to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
I have to make myself feel quote unquote normal, even though normal isn't a real thing. Mm-hmm. It's your normal. So the fact that I needed my eyebrows on my face to make me feel normal and make me feel better, that works for me. Whatever you can do for yourself, whether it's getting a massage, whether it's going, getting your hair done, wearing a wig, getting your nails done, whatever it is, if it's making you feel better and more, less self-conscious about how you look to the outside world. Because also I've noticed I don't look at people and go, oh, you look sick. I think that's a perception that we had as patients. Everyone's looking at us. It's like, oh, you're sick. But I don't think people really look at you like that, because I don't look at people like that.
Me either. I guess that is one of those things that you just think yourself.
This is your new normal, and normal is boring. You're beautiful. Thank you.
Awesome. And I guess to touch back on like the misdiagnosis thing, because we were talking a lot about age does not matter.
Nope. I think you said you were 21. I got diagnosed the day or two after my 30th birthday. So there's no age discrimination. I mean, I think for our type of cancer, it's between 15 and 35. So,
and even kids nowadays, like I feel like like we talked about this before. You didn't know what Hodgkins was or lymphoma.
I had no idea what it was. So, I mean, what the day that my primary care brought me in and said, okay, it's one of three things. It's lung cancer, it's some type of lymphoma, or it's lung cancer. And I'm like, okay, lung cancer, chemo, lung infection, antibiotic. But then he's like, it's probably lymphoma, but it's totally treatable with chemo and radiation. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, what does that mean? Like chemo, like as in my hair is going to fall out, chemo?
Yeah.
And I mean, that for me was surreal because it was very quick. It's like, okay, this is probably what it is. We are going to send you over to Roswell Park, which is the hospital in Buffalo, New York that I went to. And you just kind of go and you don't think. So I guess for me, it would have been helpful and not that I would have even thought about it, but for there to be people I could reach out to immediately. Like there's obviously LLS, but I don't know how receptive they are initially. So like reaching out to me, I will always answer your DM, leave a comment, whatever. And I know there's a bunch of other girls on Instagram that want to help you and want to help you figure out and navigate what you're doing.
With this and whatever else we're all doing, we can kind of eliminate that for people in the future, you know? Like,
right.
So that there's always someone there, and no matter what type of cancer. We focus mainly on Hodgkin's in this so far, but there's a million other cancers out there that we could do the same thing for.
I mean, there's so many girls our age getting breast cancer.
Yeah.
It's just it's crazy to me that this is a real life thing that we have to worry about now.
Yeah. Yep. What else? Did we miss anything that we wanted to touch on?
I mean, did we talk about mental health?
Just a little. I don't
know.
Yeah.
I mean,
let's talk more about it.
We can talk about mental health. And mental health is such a taboo topic. I mean, I've posted on my Instagram about how I felt about things. Like I've used Instagram pretty much as like therapy or a diary. If I had good days, you knew. If I had bad days, you knew. But when like I was on the prednisone, how I felt, just the steroid, I think in itself just kind of alters how you think and how you feel. I mean, I was very sad. I was very depressed. And I honestly remember driving home one night and going, if I just veer left and go into the tree, maybe I just won't wake up. And no one wants to live like that. And I mean, I recognized it right away and I called my doctor and I got into therapy and I was put on an antidepressant, and that was a process. But you have to be willing to do the work. You have to want to get better. And I really wanted to get better, and I wanted to be a functioning member of society. But I just don't want people to be afraid to ask for help in that sense. Whether, like I said, it's DMing me, it's messaging someone else, it's calling your doctor, it's talking to a friend, it's calling a hotline. I just think it's really important because no one necessarily talks to you about that side of it when you get diagnosed. It's just like, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do 12 rounds of chemotherapy and maybe some radiation, and you'll be fine. And that's really not the case, because you really did almost die. And I think people forget that, and we kind of just glaze over it.
Life altering.
So it's really life altering. And so I guess the only takeaway is, please ask for help, because I think it's a fairly standard feeling that you go through some level of depression. You're very high, you're very low, and then it's like, well, now what?
Totally agree. And it's okay to go to a therapist. Like, don't
Absolutely.
be ashamed of that, to take medicine. Like, you need to do what you need to do to feel better.
You do. I was on one for 3 years.
And now you don't take it?
And now I don't take it.
See?
So, I mean, mine was obviously circumstantial. But like I said, I did the work. I put in the work. I wanted to be better. I've read a lot of books. Tony Robbins is one of my best friends via, his podcast and his show on Netflix. So I kept that positivity in my life. I kept positive people around me. And I mean, I think that's important. You can't have negative and toxicity in your life if you want to get out of it.
Exactly. You're amazing. If you guys can't tell, she does motivational speeches sometimes, so. What else? Is there anything else you want to leave?
What else did we talk about?
I don't know. We covered all of it pretty much, except for like the cravings after.
All I wanted to eat was pizza and spaghetti and macaroni and cheese.
Anything carbs.
Anything carb related. And I thought that was so strange because I'm not typically like a carb person. And I actually, after every chemo, I would get a Slurpee, like a Pepsi or Coke Slurpee. And it always made me feel better because you're nauseous. And like, that was the only thing that I wanted. I was at another doctor's appointment for, I think it was my OBGYN. And we were talking about it, and she's like, oh, well, that's because there's super high sugar content. That's why we give pregnant moms, we tell them to keep hard candy. So that high sugar content, even though as a cancer patient, you're told not to eat sugar, that high sugar content in limitation will help you with your nausea.
Wow. Fun facts.
Fun fact that I did not learn that until like the very end.
Yeah, like the last treatment.
The end.
Yeah, like the last treatment.
The second or last treatment. That's why I wanted like a Slurpee from 7-Eleven.
Yeah, I always wanted cornbread and Chinese food chicken fingers.
That sounds amazing though.
Not very healthy.
It's not healthy.
Not healthy at all.
You know what? Also, we should mention is you're gonna have so many people coming at you from so many different ways. Like, do this, do that, don't do this. And you've got to do what's right for you. You know, I wanted to eat a cookie one day, so I'd eat a cookie. And you know, people are going to come. Don't be afraid to eat that. People are going to come and say, well, you should be taking this vitamin or this whatever it is, this holistic treatment. There are medical professionals out there for a reason, and you have to trust them, and you just kind of have to block out the noise from other people while they wish you well and they want the best for you. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming and overbearing, and you feel like you're being judged by other people.
Yeah. Find what works for you.
Find what works for you, for sure.
Totally. I don't know. I think anything else? Now I'm looking over again. First chemo treatment, you just laughed through the whole thing.
Like, I did. I laughed my butt off. I mean, for me, like my nurses were the best thing ever, and those are the people like that would get me through each chemo. It's like, oh, your hair's still there, all right, looking good, and like they just joke with you. I mean, you can really rely on those people.
They become friends.
They become friends. I mean, I still see some of them from time to time, like random grocery store, or if I have an appointment at Roswell. But yeah, my first chemo was hysterical. I just laughed my ass off the entire time. And it progressively gets harder. You know, I think around 9 or 10, I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. But you push through, and you know there's an end in sight. You just have to remember that this is going to end at some point. And hopefully for most people, it ends well enough that you come back even better than you were before, which I feel like is my case. I feel like that's your case. I feel like that's a lot of the girls that I associate with. They're all better than they were before. And I mean, I would never change this experience for anything. This has brought the most amazing people into my life. I've met amazing people. I've been able to connect with these people. So this is just something I would never change. I'm forever honestly grateful for it. It was horrible, but at the same time, it was completely beautiful.
We should end on that, because that was perfect. That summed everything up perfectly. Oh my God.
I mean, you just want to make a negative a positive. Something else we talked about yesterday was the not holding on to things and not being angry And I guess knowing how you feel about something, like if I get mad, I try not to let it, mad, upset, whatever the adjective you want to use here.
Mm-hmm.
If it's negative, you don't want to hold on to it more than for a couple minutes because it's not doing you any good. It's like, okay, this is my reality. Okay, then I guess we're going to move on and accept it. And I will do what I can to change it going forward, but try not to focus on it. I mean, I think Tony Robbins says he gives himself 90 seconds to process it and let it go and move on.
Yeah. If you can't control it.
If you can't control it, there's no point in whining over it. Or, I mean, honestly, you and I could both be like laying on the floor right now crying about what's happened to us. But it says a lot about us and what we want out of life that we can be here and talk about it. And we want to help and inspire, unfortunately, the next round of people that it's going to happen to.
Exactly. Amen.
Amen.
So your Instagram is at Amy Lipman.
Amy Lee Lipman.
Amy Lee Lipman. Anyone?
Full name.
I'll post a thing after tagging her so you can follow her. And if you have any questions or comments, you want to come on this nice live video, or
it's fun.
I know it is.
This is super fun.
No. Hopefully we could do it with like 3 people. That'd be awesome.
I feel like that should be like, an episode down the road. 3 people, 3 perspectives. Maybe we get a guy in here.
Yes.
I don't know too many guys that had what we had, but apparently it's more male dominant than women. But
they probably.
Let's get a guy.
I feel like boys don't talk about stuff. We're gonna boy down here.
Fair enough.
All right, guys. Aw.
Thank you.
That's what we're here to do. If you guys have any questions, please message us, and we're here to help. You're not alone.
You're definitely not alone.
Yeah, you'll get through it. All right. Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.